I don't have eyes, but I can see. I don't have a brain, but I can think. I have nothing to say, but let's have a chat. The universe came from nothing. Absolutely nothing. Why? Because it came from a bubbling, boiling brew of fluctuating energy. Hold up. That's not nothing.
It came from nothing by physics.
Yes, but your nothing, is it really like nothing?
No space, no time. Our universe didn't exist.
So there
was no quantum foam. There was nothing where our universe existed. There was no space and no time.
Okay, so with regards to Professor Krauss' fundamental contention that it's plausible that the universe can come from nothing, there are only one of two possible implications. The first implication is that the universe is eternal, that it always existed. Now, Professor Krauss doesn't actually believe this. He's not actually saying this in his book because he affirms that the Big Bang actually happened. In fact, he's gone as far as to say in some of his podcasts that we can actually trace the Big Bang back to a fraction of a millisecond after it happened, right? So he affirms he affirms that the universe began to exist. In other words, it's not eternal. Now, Hamza and the professor are in agreement here, because Hamza argued and he gave a philosophical argument to say that the universe can't be infinite. Then he gave a suggestive argument to say that obviously, the Big Bang happened, and that was an inductive argument. That was suggestive to his deductive philosophical argument. So they both are in agreement there. But what was strange, right, was that regardless of the fact that the professor doesn't actually believe this, and he's not trying to say this in his book, he felt the need to argue in favor for the infinite. He kept insisting that it's possible to have an infinite, right? Even though he doesn't agree with it himself. And Hamza was like, Professor, you don't actually believe in the infinite yourself. You said it in your book, right? And the professor basically drew a circle like this and a line through it. And he basically, made a calculation. In fact, you know what? You can watch the video right now yourself.
The quantifiable infinite cannot be actualized in the physical world, something that you agreed with. 1 second. And I said there's nothing wrong with a qualitative infinite. And qualitative infinites can exist infinitely. For example, mathematicians discuss. Yes, so where's the infinite there?
That's the length. You think this is a length? A length is a physical quantity?
That is.
Length
that is.
a physical quantity?
That is, yeah.
Okay, the length of this and the length of that, okay, the ratio of those two lengths is an infinite number.
Yes, of course it is.
Okay.
But what is that length? What is that length?
1. This is a length 1. Is 1 Krauss.
Okay, can you...
These are pi Krauss.
1 second. Can you measure the straight line and can you measure the circumference? Yes or no?
I can measure it.
Well, that's quantifiable.
Okay, so as you can see there, the professor, he confused the qualitative infinite for the quantitative infinite, right? The quantitative infinite in the mathematical realm that has certain axioms that allow it to function in that fashion cannot be quantified in the qualitative realm, right? And then, right, something that was slightly a bit more embarrassing for the professor was when Hamza mentioned, look, it's inside your book that you can't have this. So I don't know why you're arguing this with me right now. And the professor said, this is not in my book. Where is it in my book? And then Hamza was like, does anyone have a book of the professor? And one of Professor Krauss's fans, he just took the book, right, and he put it in Hamza's face, bless him, he must, really be a fan, it was good. I think they got to meet at the end of the event as well. And Hamza pulled out the book, and as he was opening it, about to read the quote from his book, the professor suddenly, his tune changed, and he said, well, if I said it, then I was wrong, right? And what he said was, clearly the energy of empty space, or anything else for that matter, cannot be physically infinite. So we have to figure out a way to do the calculation and get a finite answer, right? And then when he mentioned that, when Hamza read that out in front of the professor took his book off Hamza and then he misread his own book. And that was quite interesting. We'll put the clip at the end for you guys to check that out. Okay, so we can affirm that this is not true and this is not what's being implied from his book. Okay, can we imply the second implication, literally from nothing? What that means is that the universe literally came, the universe was caused from nothing. Now that sounds nonsensical because how can nothing cause something? when there's nothing to cause, right? From nothing, nothing comes. I mean, just imagine it, picture it for a second. Try and visualize absolutely nothing. And then from that nothing, the universe comes. So the professor, alhamdulillah, he doesn't actually believe something so stupid. He doesn't actually affirm that the universe came from literally nothing. And that's good for us, right? But then here's the question that comes to mind. Well, then when the professor said that the universe came from nothing, what does he mean? Well, it's very important that we understand firstly that in his book, he actually attempts to redefine the term nothing. He says nothing isn't nothing anymore, but rather nothing. And he puts that nothing in the middle in italics, right? The one that I stretched and emphasized upon. So what's nothing? He takes that as a label to refer to the quantum vacuum state. Now, the quantum vacuum state, in his own words, is a boiling, brewing sea of energy. In the words of many other scientists and physicists such as John Polkinghorne, right? He says that, for example, it's not nothing. It's a highly structured entity, right? So, okay, that's quite interesting. I mean, energy is something, right? It's not nothing. So if we were going to give benefit of the doubt to the professor, we could say that when he says nothing, he's referring to nothing as a label for energy, which is a bit kind of, but right, if you want to call energy nothing, then go for it. That's up to you. But the point to understand is he doesn't mean that it's literally nothing. Now, just for better clarity, let's define what nothing actually means, right? So we can see where the professor went wrong and how he ended up confusing us and perhaps himself. Nothing is literally nothing. Not anything. There is not anything on my page. Nothing is a term for universal negation. It is an absence of something, right? So when I say there is nothing in my bank, I'm saying there is not anything in my bank. But for me to say that there is nothing in my bank, yet I went and bought a Ferrari, is just as stupid as me saying that the universe came from nothing. For me to say that I don't have a wife, but she's buff, she's absolutely beautiful, right? She's hot, as the Americans would say, right? It's just as silly as me saying the universe came from nothing. Or me saying I have nothing to say, but let's have a chat. It's just as silly as me saying that there was nothing that caused the universe and the universe came from nothing. Now, how could the professor make a mistake like this? And it's a bit difficult for us to accept that someone of his high caliber, right, and his academia could actually make such a silly mistake. So it would appear that either he kind of just overlooked it, and if so, then just a bit of feedback from myself, right? For all of us that are not familiar with all the scientific jargon and able to work out everything as you are, you've been blessed with a PhD and with your work in theoretical physics and so on and so forth. We've never had that same opportunity to obviously see science through your lenses. So sometimes when you say things, you may mean one thing, but we interpret it as something else. And this is something that in psychology is known as the curse of knowledge, right? Where you know something, but you don't realize that we don't know it. And for you to say that the universe is nothing, the masses, people like myself, are going to actually think you're meaning nothing, okay? And not understand that you actually mean that there's something, right? Or the second reason could be, and although I don't want to accept this, reading Richard Dawkins afterward, it shows that there was kind of like a hidden agenda to kind of put, have like an attack on theism, right? As Richard Dawkins says, and I'm paraphrasing, this is like the last nail in the coffin with regards to theism. The fact that we argue that the universe can't come from nothing, but apparently it's been proved, and that's a bit insincere if that's what the motive was. And reading what Richard Dawkins wrote at the end kind of implies that that's the direction that it went. But I'm not going to hold it against them because it's not something that I can prove, but it's just some food for thought. Okay, so what does that mean? Ultimately, it means that the professor and Hamza are really in agreement. Let me just highlight. They both accept that the universe was not eternal, that it began to exist. They both accept that the universe had a cause, right? It wasn't caused by nothing. Well, that's basically the premises of Hamza's argument. Hamza argued that everything that begins to exist has a cause. Well, the universe began to exist, right? They said, well, the universe has a cause. Well, the professor affirms that, yeah, it has to have a cause. And then Hamza says, okay, sorry. I'm going to repeat the second premise, yeah? And the second premise that Hamza puts forth is that, well, the universe began to exist. And the professor affirms this because he doesn't believe that the universe is eternal. Well, then that means that if you accept these two premises, and if these premises are true, which in actuality they are, for the evidences that Hamza presented forth in the debate, then that means you have to inescapably affirm the deductive conclusion that the universe has a cause. Now, upon conceptual analysis, we can use our mind and rationalize, because I know the professor likes to rationalize about things like incest, for example, rationalize upon the cause, right? Upon a conceptual analysis, we can actually make conclusions about this cause. For example, that the cause is the source of morality, as I discussed in my first video, right? The cause is conscious, right? We can affirm that the cause is one with the benefit of the principle of Occam's razor. And this is not the time and place for me to go into this in any depth. That's not the point I'm making. My point here is not to try and, in this specific video, prove to you the nature of this cause, but it was to highlight how the professor actually, misconstrued a few things. So I hope I've cleared that up for you guys. And if you are in agreement with what the professor is saying, that means ultimately you're in agreement with Hamza, right? So go back and watch the debate through these lenses, and hopefully you will see the points a bit more clearer, and things will become a lot more evident for you. So on that note, it's Imran ibn Mansur. I'm signing out. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please do share the video, subscribe. This is a new channel. We're trying to engage with you guys and educate upon Islam. Because, there's like 1.8 billion of us in the universe, and we're here to stay, and, we tend to have a lot of children, so that rate's probably increasing. So it would be nice to get to know each other, we can go for a cup of tea, play a game of cricket. I mean, you can like football. I'm not really out for football, but cricket, we can do that. Maybe, we could spar a little, some kind of sports. We into that, right? And if we made any mistakes, then please, we're open to criticism and feedback. Comments below. You can get in touch with me on my Facebook page and my Twitter. I would love to hear from you guys. In the meantime, you guys have a very good day. Take care of yourself, and I pray that we are all guided towards the divine. Ameen.
And you made a conclusion in your book. You said, this is why you can't have an infinite anything.
No.
You said that in
You
your
show
book.
me where I can't have an infinite anything.
Yeah,
Did I talk about
give me the
infinite
book.
energy density?
Let me
Did I talk
find.
about whether the universe might be infinite?
Let me find it for you.
And by the way, if I did, I was wrong.
Infinity is not a pleasant quantity, however, at least as far as physicists are concerned, and we try to avoid it whenever possible. Clearly, the energy of empty space, or anything else for that matter, cannot be physically infinite.
The energy of anything.
No. You said,
Sorry.
or anything else for that matter.
The energy of anything cannot be physically infinite.
Where's that there?
The energy of empty space or the energy of anything else.
You're reading another book now.